Welcome back to another edition of Pages Promotions Virtual Book Festival Autumn 2020, a production of Indie Reads TV. We find our home on CNM TV in Troy, Michigan. I gotta tell you, we're having a blast this month, so many events, and today is gonna be really super fun for me. I don't know about for anybody else, but Andrew Allan Smith is here today, and we're gonna have a blast talking to him, mostly because I'm a big fat fan. And I just like to gush about his writing and him as a human being. So welcome, everybody. Hi, Andrew. Thanks for your time tonight. I appreciate it.
It's all good. But before we get started, I have to say, for everybody, thank you for putting on such a great event this month. You've been out there for all of these authors. I don't think anybody realizes that a lot of people only put in a half hour to an hour at a time, but you're putting in 1 to 5 hours a day, probably more, supporting all of these people and trying to make it right. And everybody here and everybody, if we're on TV sometime, all of you out in TV land need to do a good round of applause for Diana, because she's done a bang up job of making this real and exciting.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I'm just doing this because I'm madly in love with our author community, and I want everybody else to discover you guys too. So that's why I'm doing it. It's for you guys, not for me. So we're going to start with this. I'm going to start with a real question, Andrew, and then we'll open the room, because I know this is just going to like take on a life of its own. But so I've read a bunch of your short stories, and I know you have an entire series of novels. Yep. So here's the thing. You're a prolific author. You're constantly writing. I want to know what draws you to write a short story that then evolves into a novel, or what makes you say, no, this is a short story and I'm going to leave it in its own little bubble? How do you make that decision about where you're going to take a piece?
Super question, because I've been fighting short stories my whole life. I had poetry once, but I kicked it. No, I still write poetry too. But you know, when I write short stories, I see them as a slice of life. You know, they still, like a novel, they have a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a slice of a day, or a slice of a moment, or a slice of a week, where a novel may cover a significant amount of time. And I wrote short stories for so long, and would think I could finish this out to a novel, but didn't. And a lot of it turns out to be, I think I invented ADD, but I've never been determined as an ADD person. But I can get sidetracked pretty easy. I did find, though, that a lot of my short stories can tie together. I have a novel that has quite a few pages, about 40,000 words now, called 99 Dreams, that's about a young man who falls for a woman at work, but is too shy to talk to her. And every night he goes home and has a different dream, and these dreams keep progressing, where he's meeting something like this woman, and it progresses from just a chance meeting to otherworldly, to alien, to one of the best is Wisps, that I put up on your page.
Mm-hmm.
Wisps is about two pieces of smoke that were dancing above the fire and intertwining, and no corporal presence per se, but learning more about each other because they have no body. And you know, all of these ideas fly around, and a lot of them can be tied together. As I look at the short story, I go, if you sit down and you read The Edge, it could easily turn into a full book.
Yeah.
And the reason it could easily is because it has a character, and the slice of the life opens up a doorway to possibilities. And I think that's what a lot of short stories do.
Absolutely.
Would you please stop using the word slice?
Yeah.
But you don't like a slice here? I will get you cheese if it's good cheese.
Yeah. I knew this was going to go off the rails quickly. It's all right. Okay, so I'm just going to do it. Everybody turn on your microphones and let's just open up and have a nice little conversation. I got to tell you, though, as much fun as we have together in this community, and we do have a lot of fun, I am always intrigued by a writer's craft and how they come to it and how they navigate it, because the cool thing about writing is everybody does it differently. We all may create short stories or novels, sometimes, you know, a memoir, historical, whatever, but we all seem to come to it differently. And that to me is just uber fascinating. So that's why I wanted to ask you about that difference between the line of short story and novel, because the short story that you shared with me, that you put up on the page today, I immediately, when I got done reading it, I thought, wow, I'm seeing a whole novel. I'm seeing this as chapter one. You know, so I'm curious, like sincerely curious about how you make the decision. Like you have a website full of these short stories. How do you make the decision which one's going to be short and which one's going to have another extension of life?
It's just whatever is living. Kate and I would have a lot of fun together, because I sit down and that story, for example, I wrote in about 2 hours. I sat down and went end to end in about 2 hours. Started out about 4,400 words, and it was a complete story, and it just rolls. So when I sit down and I look at it, and then I'll reread it or I'll work with it, and as I'm going, I'm like, this isn't done, and I'll either set it aside to work on it later, or I'll just go off on a tangent. The Eternal Forever is a very similar. I wrote it as a short story, and it is about a man who was at a man at a bar. He's at a bar and he meets this beautiful young woman, and they start talking, and it gets a little bit exciting, and they go out to eat together at 4 o'clock in the morning, and 3 guys jump them, and something very unique happens. And he has an opportunity with her lying at the edge of death to save her life. And it's not a vampire. It's nothing like anything that's out there right now. But he has an opportunity to save her, and he's got to really think about it. And then the entire book that I'm writing is about how he came into being. And he's telling her because he's changed her life forever. And, you know,
That's very cool.
as I sit down and write it, I didn't plan it out. I don't have an outline. This is in my mind of how this is going to happen, and the characters take on a life of their own, and they're as much alive as anything else. I think it's very telling. In my second book, Sinful Father, at the end of the book, there is something bad that happens, and I cried like a child writing about a character that died, being given a eulogy by a character I wrote, killed by a character I wrote, that was in love with another character that I wrote, feeling the loss that the characters felt, but none of it was real. I mean, it's all
real for you, and that transpires into real for the reader.
Exactly.
And that's why you're so good. You can do that.
Hey, Mark.
Anybody else have questions for Andrew? Andrew and I could like sit in a corner with a cup of cocoa and talk all night. So, turn on your microphones, guys, and just go ahead and go ahead, Mark.
I have 2 questions. One, how many of your short stories have turned into novels?
There are the 5 that are behind me started from a short story. The prologue to Vengeful Son was the short story that started that entire series. There are 18 different starts of books that I have that are in various forms, and another 10 that are a little further than that. So there are about mid-20s books that are in progress, one step or another. A great one I mean, it's kind of an odd, but there's a book I started years ago, and I actually picked it up and started finishing, called Stealth Ride. And it's all about a man's journey to letting go of the material world and realizing what's important to him. And it all revolves around a ride in a car being chased by 3 nutcases in a truck. And, you know, it was a short story that was this long, and it's turned into, it's at about 20,000 words now. What I need to do is sit down and finish, which is, NaNoWriMo is perfect because I've got a goal, I got a bunch of support people, and I sit down every night and they do time trials together, and I run circles around everybody. But it gives me the time. They say, okay, we're doing a 15-minute sprint. Yay, 15-minute sprint, knocked it out. How many words did you do? Well, I did 50. I did 700, or I did 2,000. You know, but it gives me that competition where I finish things quickly and I get lost in it.
Well, it gives you the focus too. That's why I like Nano, is for the focus.
Yeah,
Mark, what was your second question?
Second question.
Second question was, I heard you say that you wrote a short story about a guy who was too shy to ask a girl out or something like that, correct?
Correct.
And then I heard you say, guy's at a bar with a girl and it works out really great and they're having a great conversation. Which one of those 2 people is you?
None of them. I am completely bereft of a social conscience, which makes me terrifying if I'm single. So if I walk into a bar, I can talk to anybody in the bar and nobody can hurt my feelings. Nobody can make me feel bad. So I am overly confident at all times. My wife, when she met me, thought I was an arrogant, you know, it was kind of accurate because I don't suffer the constraints of other people. You've met me in person. I
think that's what makes you so endearing, is because what we get is truth. That's what I love from you.
That's the other part. I tell the truth, positive, negative, or other. If you ask me a question directly, you're going to get exactly the way that I feel, even if it hurts your feelings. Because to lie is to waste time and to waste life.
I agree. And like you say, that was the first thing that attracted me to you. I saw you at a table talking to, yes, I know. I saw you at a table talking with a reader about your book. And they said, well, what if I don't like it? And you said, yeah, okay, there's like 120 other authors here.
That's right. And
I just went, oh yeah, I need that.
I think that's something that's missing with a lot of authors. And I listen a lot and interact a lot in all of these calls, and I really enjoy other authors. But everybody gets so involved in trying to sell themselves that they don't realize that that person may not sync with them. And we can't just sell ourselves. We need to sell the idea of writing. And I have sold probably 50 of Ingar's books for him. Ingar Rudholm wrote a great book called The Traveling Circus, and you know, he's a really great author, and it was the first indie book that I read when I moved to Michigan. And we travel a lot together because his books are children, mine are not. I talk to people and they say, well, I don't want no curse words. And I said, well, I have some. Why don't you have Ingar's book? My books I use them right. It's not just there for being there. It has a purpose. And I don't abuse sex or anything like that, but there's violence and there's some language. And they'll go and they'll sit there and they'll do it and buy Ingar's book. And then they'll come back and buy mine and say, well, I just want to try this out. And it turns into a lot of fun. And my little 92-year-old lady down in Kalamazoo, she walked into a nice little place I was sitting, and she said, you know, I don't want to read this if it's bad. And now she writes me all the time, where's the 6th book? And I'm like, I've got 5 for you. I only had 1 when I met you. She said, well, I want that 6th book now. So, you know, it's fun having people that, you know, you can interact with. But to your question, I'm not the guy that would be in the bar just watching everybody. I'm the person in the room that watches or that interacts, that determines what's there in the room. I am not shy. I don't have a shy bone in my body.
Diana is agreeing with that, aren't you?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I know when to shut up.
I don't think that's a mistake that any of us made.
Okay, I like that.
You know what we call that though, honestly? I think it's a Kentucky thing. I always just say I could make friends standing in line for a movie. It's just I have no problem talking with somebody and just finding something in common that we can talk about, which is probably why Andrew and I get along so well together.
Exactly.
There you go.
The only problem I've ever run into with the whole personality is I had a girlfriend once, and I was in line to get food, and I was with her, and we're sitting in line and waiting, and I started talking to somebody else in line, and it was a girl and her mother, and I was telling jokes and making them laugh, and my girlfriend was standing next to me, and we were laughing too, and then she said, "You are flirting too much," and I said, "I'm not flirting, I'm just talking." And she said, "She just asked her mom if she should ask you out." And I'm like, okay, didn't know, didn't care, but I would have said no.
Does anyone else have questions for Andrew? Go, Kate.
Yeah,
Okay.
where can I find that line to Aiden?
Say that again.
Where can I find that line to Aiden and that girl and her mother?
That's a secret. You have to know somebody who knows.
That's right. Go, Kate. What's your question?
Okay, so 2 comments and a question. So Diana had messaged me, I forget when, and she was telling me about your short stories. And the thing that she said that stood out in my mind the most about why I would enjoy them, aside from all the obvious reasons, is just about how tight your writing is, that there are no wasted or unnecessary words. And I found that to be 100% true. And I admire that so very much in an author. So number 1, kudos. Number 2 comment is everything that you said earlier about Diana P, about being a great supporter of indie authors. You're right up there with her. And so I just want to say, at least for myself, how much we appreciate you and
100%.
how much you lift us up and just do it with no expectation of any kind of reward. So thank you. I want to just truly and genuinely say thank you for everything that you have done throughout this whole month, that you continue to do. So mucho credit to you. And then number 3 is, have you ever written anything that either later took you by surprise, made you think, whoa, that was a bit far out there even for me, or just something where you were like, where did that, what muse came and perched on my head in the middle of the night? Have you ever written anything like that where you just genuinely were like, either where'd this come from, or that was a bit much even for me?
There's some weird stuff right now because I've been going through, I have crates of stuff that I've packed away over the years because I moved a lot. When I got divorced, I lived inside of a series of Rubbermaid containers for years. And now as I'm going through things, I've found several notebooks of things that I wrote. Didn't have a typewriter, didn't have a computer. I had notebooks because I'm old. As an old person, I had these notebooks, and there's some things, I wrote a story that I wanted to be a novel, and I didn't remember at first, but it was about a boy whose father was kidnapped with him, and he's sitting here, and the father is being threatened because they want the technology, and he throws the boy into a block of what appears to be steel, and the boy just merges into it, and it's actually a vehicle. And that vehicle can transform into anything. It was a cool story, and I was like, wow, what was I thinking here? But as a kid, probably 13 or 14, the vehicle was made out of a gallium titanium matrix that lined up in platelets through an electrical current, which made it almost impervious, but because gallium becomes liquid at just above body temperature, it allowed it to be easily manipulated and create. And I had so much technical detail of how to build this thing that I was sitting here going, maybe I should get out a wrench and start making it. So, yeah, there are things that I write occasionally that it's kind of crazy.
You know
Sounds
what?
like Terminator 2.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And it was at least it would have been at least 15 years before Terminator 2.
You know what you make me think of, and I genuinely 100% mean this as a compliment, is Roald Dahl's books that were written for adults. You know, of course, we've all read, which are still for kids, but still like, whoa, dang, he went there. But when you read the books that he wrote for adults, that is, and again, I mean this 100% as a compliment, that is what your writing reminds me of. And that ability to just kind of just to go there. I don't even know how else to explain it.
Well, you know, when Diana publishes this wonderful book that some of you may still have time to, contribute to, I mean, Simple Things, it's a great thing to contribute to. You'll see
Love
a different
you so
side.
much, Andrew.
You'll see a different side because a lot of my stories have intense violence or, interesting weapons or interesting other things, but this is a completely different approach. And I have tons of that too. I've all sorts of things that I've written that were from heartache or pain or passion or, seeing something that, others didn't see for a moment. And I wrote it all down, and it's scary.
Andrew, by the way, feel free to submit a second piece if you'd like for the anthology Simple Things. If you would like to submit something else, you are welcome to do that.
Did you read the first one?
Everyone is welcome to do that. So feel free.
Yeah, everyone.
We have about 40 or 45 pieces right now. So no, Diana, you should definitely submit something. Seriously, just do it. You've been hanging around us long enough. Some of this has got to be rubbing off by now. So
you're a member of the club.
Absolutely. You should do it.
We shouldn't be making Diana laugh. It probably hurts. So I'll tell you the bear and the rabbit joke. There was a bear and a rabbit, and no, we better not.
Okay. We've got about 8 minutes left. Does anyone else have questions for Andrew?
I do.
Go ahead, Diana.
Do you have a book of your short stories, or are they all on your website?
The Theft and Other Short Stories, and coming soon. I'm formatting it now. Are you ready, Mark?
Yes.
My poetry book is called A Slice of Passion.
What a surprise.
My short story book that I have compiled a significant number of my short stories for that are more horror driven, and it will be A Slice of Fear, and it'll be out probably in the next 2-3 weeks. I have it all formatted and put together. I have about 4 more stories to write, so over this weekend I'll kick it out.
And you're going to post the link in the group when it's out, right?
Yeah, you are. You're gonna like announce it and tell us all about it and how we can like get autographed copies. And
Andrew, I got a great idea.
Yes, it is good.
I presume you've written some slasher short stories.
I have written slasher short story. It is very good.
Put them together in a book and call them A Slice of Slice.
I will put potatoes and make it a slice of vodka. It will be good. Yeah, well, we could do that. A slice of a slice.
A slice of slice.
So
go ahead.
When did Theft come out?
The Theft and Other Short Stories came out about 5 years ago, 6 years ago. It was the
How come
first.
you haven't had it when I've seen you?
I usually give it away. It's little and small. It's a little book. It's only let's see.
Yeah, exactly.
It's 60
I
pages.
don't have this.
I will send you my mailing address.
It's
Since you're giving it away.
Yeah, 60 days. I will give you one with the Silent Sister that I'm giving you, so that you'll have it too.
Awesome.
I put it together because Gary and Lorene, who own the candy store, the Lakeside Emporium, best candy store in the state of Michigan, they challenged me to write something, and I said, well, I'll just put a bunch of my short stories together and write 4 or 5 more and put them out there and put that out. And the first thing Gary said is, I want more. There are several that are in there that are starts of books and have a lot of, I even notated in there, this was an idea I had that will later become, a detective story. There's the start of it is a detective story, and there's one, the theft is about a thief that is so excited. Actually, it's a fun story because the thief is so excited. Ooh, what am I going to get? What am I going to get? And he's hiding in the back of a truck to jump somebody. And then a 110-pound dog jumps in the back of the truck and, looks at him with a tennis ball in her mouth and slowly presses down, and the ball pops, and well, so does he. So, hey, it's fun, but it's the start of a series. And the most popular short story on the short story site is called Protect His Heart. And it's the start of a detective story about a woman who is a serial killer. But I never took it any further. Hey,
Wow.
A lot of women are serial killers. They take my heart and kill it.
That sounds awesome. I can't wait to read this.
Yeah, it's fun.
Well, see, here's the great thing about Andrew. He's up when we're asleep writing, so we will never catch up to reading everything he writes, which is just wonderful because it means that you're never going to run out of his stuff. It's just fabulous.
Yeah, short story site, and this is just a thought for you authors, used to have about 100 authors on it, and I kicked them all off years ago because I was doing paid contests and people were plagiarizing all the time, and it just became a nightmare. And I said, okay, I'm done. All of you are off, and this is my site now, and I can do what I want. But it's a nice root domain, short story site. How can you miss? No, anybody can find that. And I've thought about opening it up again to unique authors so that they can put their work out there if they want somebody to be able to read it. Let me know if you like that idea, and if you don't, that's okay too. I have no feelings.
You big fat liar. Okay, so does anyone else have questions? We've got like 3 minutes left. So if you've got questions or queries or curiosities for Andrew, this is the time to throw them out there. Anybody? Go, Kate.
Okay, this is Business Kate talking. What is the easiest way for people to find you and access your work? Because especially this time of year and the short stories, that's something I want to be able to literally either send or tell people, here, just go here. What is the easiest way for people to reach them?
I have 2 websites that I write at constantly. Short story site, things go up and down all the time. So there are a lot of things there that are private, and I think there are 30 stories that are showing to the world right now. But that is Short Story Site, shortstorysite.com, easy to find. And I write every day at a site called 29000sunsets.com. My purpose there is to try to lift some people up, where if you only have 29,000 sunsets in your life, that's 79 3/4 years, which is the average lifespan of the people in the United States right now. And it's day 28,999. What would you be doing differently, and why aren't you doing it today? Because life is very short. I could be dead tomorrow, and I want to have the most positive, passionate life, which is why sometimes I'll push the envelope. I may be a little too aggressive, a little too passionate, a little too over the top, but in the end, I want to live my life, and I think everybody should be there. Don't whine about it.
I
Yep.
love your writings on that site. I use it as like a daily devotional because it's so, what's the word? It's a touch of something that I can't get anyplace else. It's not overly religious. It's not proselytizing. It's not pushing a lifestyle. It's like the antithesis of anything aggressive. And I read you every day and I use it as a devotional. So I wanted to thank you for that because it really has benefited me tremendously.
This month, I probably scared everybody off doing all this horror stuff, but
It's
hey,
October.
it's been
okay.
fun. You know,
We've got to wrap up our television stuff. Thank you so much for coming tonight, Andrew. I really, 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 really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for filling the room and enjoying our conversation. Here he is again, just so you get his name. And remember, this is Andrew Allan Smith, and you can find his work on our Facebook page. We'll put links there. My timer is going off. Look at that. Thank you so much, Andrew, for coming. I really, really appreciate it. This has been Pages Promotions Virtual Book Festival Autumn 2020, a production of Indie Reads TV. We find our home on CNM TV in Troy, Michigan. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I appreciate it. Good night.
thank you. Bye bye.